Hey everyone, welcome to Dad's Den of Pop Culture. Mighty Orbots, 1984. That's what we're talking about today. A cartoon, short-lived, a one-season wonder, maybe even a half-season wonder, and short-lived for a really sad reason, which we'll get to. I didn't see this as a kid. It was a syndicated cartoon and did not happen to be syndicated in the area where I lived. I became aware of it over the years. I'd heard the name at least, didn't really know what it was. Recently came across several episodes, all the episodes, on YouTube. Took a look, and I was blown away. It's got to be one of the prettiest cartoons from that period that I have ever seen in my life. It was animated by Tokyo Movie Shinsha. Shinsha, am I getting that right? I hope I'm getting that right. TMS Entertainment Inc. But it was a Japanese-American co-production. The initial development idea came from Fred Silverman, who was responsible for bringing Scooby-Doo, Where Are You to TV, but also All in the Family, The Waltons, Charlie's Angels. This is a Roots, Shogun, big time, American producer. Inspired by the giant robot cartoons, and I guess maybe even live action, that was so popular in Japan and was becoming popular in the United States. So together they created this really quite incredible cartoon, directed by Osamu Dezaki, veteran animator director on Japanese and American productions, worked on Frosty the Snowman from Rankin Bass, many Lupin the Third productions, Space Cobra. And if you've ever seen Space Cobra, absolutely gorgeous. Designs by Akio Sugino, known for Golgo 13, which is one of the most brutal pieces of work I've ever watched, and Space Cobra. Animation by Shingo Araki, who did everything. Credits too numerous to even mention. Theme song by, at least the American theme song, by Steve Rucker and Thomas Chase. Rucker had done film scores for Dexter's Laboratory, Powerpuff Girls, many Saturday morning cartoons. Music composed by Yuji Ono, Lupin the Third, Space Cobra. Those are coming up a lot here. Narration by Gary Owens, the voice of Space Ghost and the host, not really host, I don't know what you'd call him, from Laugh-In. So some really talented people were involved in bringing this cartoon to life, and it was cut so short. It's sad. Let's take a look initially at some of the animation from the opening. And I will not be singing the opening, but it's quite good. But I wanted to give you just a look at some of the, the backgrounds, the images that go into this. This is Commander Rondu. Here's the Mighty Orbots. Now, okay, here's an interesting thing. So they're the Mighty Orbots, and when they come together, they form Mighty Orbots. It's confusing at first. We get to see some images of him. We get to see an image of their main enemy. We get to see Rob. We get to see Ono. And then we kind of get her running through a whole bunch of the robots as they call out their names. And the animation is spectacular here. And one of the things that got me is a lot of cartoons of this period will have a really beautifully animated opening. They put a lot of money and work into it. And then the animation for the rest of the episode is not quite as good. Okay, makes sense. The opening, invest more, you're going to use it over and over again. Not really the case in Mighty Orbots, although it is a gorgeous opening. The animation and design is phenomenal in this cartoon. And if you've never seen it, you absolutely have to. And there's only 13 episodes, so what's really stopping you? So if we have a main character, it would be him, Rob Simmons, voiced by Barry Gordon. He's an inventor, and he created the Orbots. And he uses something called the Omni-Suit to transform into the Orbots commander. And you get this great scene of him running and sort of going through this transformation until he becomes this different looking person. Same basic voice. Done, by the way, like Barry Gordon, Donatello from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So you're gonna know the voice when you hear it. So there's a little bit of the secret identity thing going on with him. Commander Rondu, as I mentioned before, voiced by Don Messick, friggin' legendary voice actor who's done a little bit of everything, especially Hanna-Barbera. And we have Dia Rondu, who is the daughter of Commander Rondu, voiced by Jennifer Darling. She's this really kick-ass sort of pilot soldier. Rob has a crush on her, but she only has eyes for the mysterious Orbots commander. So we got a little bit of a Lois Lane Superman thing. Darling, tons of voice work and live action, including some live action bits on $6 Million Man, Bionic Woman, and Incredible Hulk. And again, another voice you'll probably recognize. That's one of the cool things about this. It is a very Japanese animation. The look, the feel, etc. The voices are very reminiscent of a Hanna-Barbera production. Now, it's not Hanna-Barbera. They did not do this. But so it's really kind of this interesting combination. It has, from an American standpoint, it has that sort of exotic Japanese look to it, anime. But the voices really ground it in Americana, and so it feels, I don't know, it has an interesting feel because of that. So let's look at the Orbots. Now, the Orbots are robots, but they, even though they have a mechanical look to them, they move very much like cartoon characters, but sort of like human beings. They're mutable. It's not hard metal that, can't move. And they have a lot of personality. This is Ono Roboti, the first creation of Rob, and sort of the mother hen of the group, and she's integral to the creation of Mighty Orbots. She keeps everybody in line, voiced by Noelle North, says "oh no" quite a bit. In fact, that's how she opens most of her lines. She is, a little bit of a busybody. She's a little bossy, but not a character that you go, oh God, I'm so sick of this. In fact, none of those characters. There's no super cutesy character in this cartoon that makes you kind of roll your eyes and go, oh God, if only this character wasn't there, this would be great. But they put a lot of emotion into these characters. And again, it's a children's cartoon, great for kids, nice little stories, futuristic setting. Next up, we have Tor Roboti, voiced by Bill Martin. He is the strongest of the Orbots, and he forms the torso of Mighty Orbots. Reminds me a lot of Ted Baxter, the way he's voiced. Now, Bill Martin, take a quick aside here. Bill Martin is a really interesting dude, friend of Mike Nesmith of the Monkees. He wrote All Your Toys, which is one of my favorite little Monkey songs. And it was the first recording that the band did with all of them playing instruments rather than when they initially had sort of created the songs to sort of block out the show before they had the guys actually record things. And he also recorded a song called The Door into Summer, which was inspired by a Heinlein novel. He was a screenwriter for Harry and the Hendersons and was the model for Bigfoot. Did voice work on The Point, the classic sort of late 60s, 70s cartoon, and Little Nemo Adventures in Slumberland, which very similar animation to what you see in this cartoon. And he took over as the voice of Shredder on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles after James Avery left the role. Interesting guy. Bort Roboti is sort of this thin, nervous sort of robot. He can transmute into just about any other shape, and he forms the lower right leg of Mighty Orbots. Voiced by Jim McGeorge, this is a dude who wrote for Jay Ward, did a lot of voices, including he was Beanie on Beanie and Cecil, also Crowy and Captain Horatio K. Huff and Puff. Played Stan Laurel on Get Smart, did Oliver Hardy's voice on the Laurel and Hardy cartoon show. So again, a lot of real industry veterans in this cartoon. Bo Roboti, voiced by Sherry Alberoni. She's sort of this outgoing, assertive, practical joker type. She can manipulate the four elements, forms the left arm of Mighty Orbots. Alberoni is best known for being on the Mickey Mouse Club, and she did a lot of voices. Alexandra on Josie and the Pussycats, Wendy on the first season of Super Friends. You hear her voice all the time in cartoons from this period. Boo Roboti, voiced by Julie Bennett. Now, Boo is more shy, soft-spoken than Bo, but the two of them are often together. They kind of form a pair, and you notice they look similar to each other, although, if you look, not precisely like each other. They have their own individuality. She can manipulate light energy, forms the right arm of Mighty Orbots. Julie Bennett was a character actor on stage, radio, and TV, including Burns and Allen, classic, Adventures of Superman, Dragnet, known for being the voice of Cindy Bear on the Yogi Bear Show. And she did the voice of Aunt May on the 90s Spider-Man cartoon. And finally, we have Crunch Roboti. Don Messick does the voice of Crunch. He doesn't talk a lot. Chubby, he eats garbage. He can eat anything, and it sort of powers him up. And he's always eating something around them. Forms the lower left leg. And his jet is like in his butt. So when he flies, it kind of, well, anyways, I'll get into that. And so they come together. They have, of course, a really nicely done transformation scene, come together to form Mighty Orbots when they need to. They can also break apart when they need to, and they do this often in the cartoons. They'll start off as Mighty Orbots, they get into a situation, realize they're better off separated, and they'll separate. But you can see from some of this imagery, really strong design, because they have moving faces, flexible, you get a lot more emotion out of these characters. And I think that's one of the highlights of the show, is the characters themselves, very engaging, and they look great. And they have their personalities, just like, with the Autobots and such, but they can show the personalities a lot more in this cartoon. Very fun. And they form a sort of family unit, sometimes get on each other's nerves, sometimes there are issues that arise, and ultimately are overcome. So again, great show for kids. If you have kids, throw Mighty Orbots on in front of them. I think just the quality and beauty of the animation alone, I think, will draw them into the show. Here you see Dia piloting a spaceship. And just look at the design. It's just amazing what they do with these characters. Every episode was a pleasure to watch because it was just so pretty. The general plot of every episode has to do with the bad guy, Lord Umbra. Now, he has all these different, robot and aliens who work for him, who plot some sort of evil against the Orbots or against Earth or against the United System, planet, whatever. And you could see, these two, the first two that they deal with are like these robotic musicians who Boo and Bo just think are awesome, and they're like rocking out to them while the other Orbots look on going, ugh, this is terrible. So again, the personality, the joy, it's really cool. And so they serve Lord Umbra. Now, Lord Umbra is like this artificial intelligence, absolutely massive within this planet. And he appears as these like multi-eyed image, almost holographic. He sounds a little bit like Dr. Claw from Inspector Gadget. And so that's the planet he's located inside. There you get an idea of what he looks like. So massive scale, with designs on planet Earth. And he has all these different, operatives that work for him who challenge the Orbots in different ways. And of course, oftentimes challenge them, in a way that they have to not just overcome through brute strength. Maybe they have to be clever about their powers, but oftentimes they also have to make some choices. And that's where you get more character-driven stuff, which again, good for kids, little life lessons, that kind of thing. There's giant energy monsters. There's this cloud creature. There's, these space pirates were really pretty darn cool. That dude actually reminded me a little bit of the, what was that? Oh, from Scooby-Doo. The space nut. What was he called? I can't think now. Anyhow, a giant dragon thing that they had to get off the planet. Great background work, great sci-fi technology stuff here. It's a joy to look at this thing. Planets with dinosaurs and all sorts of different kinds of planets. Now, here's the sad part. This is as good as any cartoon that was floating around in '84. It's better than Voltron, and I loved Voltron. Although Voltron has its own, there's a certain thing about Voltron that makes it really cool. That's not quite here, but it's a really solid production. Like I said, beautiful, right? 13 episodes. What happened to this thing? Orbots. Let me do it with this hand. Orbots. GoBots. Tonka sued. Tonka sued and said it was confusing. Orbots were confusing with the GoBots. And look, I've always been a Transformers man, not a GoBots man. I'll admit that. You couldn't mistake the quality of this cartoon for the GoBots if you were 3 sheets to the wind, drunk, or blind. But it worked. It worked. They had to cease production. They only got 13 episodes out. And so instead of 13 more episodes of this absolutely gorgeous cartoon, Japanese-American production, with engaging, fun characters doing really cool things, we got Challenge of the GoBots. Thank you, Tonka. You're really great. But here's the really interesting thing to me. They actually had a finale for the Mighty Orbots. They obviously knew far enough in advance that it was not going to go past episode 13. And so in a very awesome episode, they take on Lord Umbra. And Lord Umbra is defeated. So you actually get a proper ending to the Mighty Orbots. Folks, I'm telling you right now, watch this cartoon if you never have. Your eyes are going to bug out. It's so freaking beautiful. And the fact that there's like no merchandise. I get it, 13 episodes, but it's sort of a cult thing. I think it was bigger over in Europe, maybe than here, or maybe in Japan than it was here. These characters are crying out for, statues, action figures, something. They're amazing. It is really sad. Sometimes cartoons that are really good don't last because they're up against really stiff competition. Sometimes they just don't manage to mesh with the audience at that moment. But to lose this cartoon over a stupid lawsuit from Tonka is a tragedy. So I highly suggest that you get out there, find Mighty Orbots. I found all the episodes on YouTube. They're in pretty good shape. Just watch it. Just watch. Even if you don't care about the plots or the character, just feast on the design and the animation. Absolutely gorgeous. What say you in the audience? Is this a cartoon you know, a cartoon you love? Sound off in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. It's a new one to me. I didn't get to see it as a kid. I can tell you what, I would have loved it as a kid. I mean, heck, just Gary Owens' voice narrating, I would have been hooked. But let me know what you think in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like, maybe subscribing, maybe sharing with a friend. I really appreciate that. It helps my channel to grow. So until next time, God bless everyone. Please be kind to one another. Have a little bit of fun. Watch the Mighty Orbots. And I'll see you hopefully soon in Dad's Den of Pop Culture. Bye-bye.